What's this about that?
God is light.
So for every one thing, there has to be an opposite.
Our ancestors were not slow.
That's what it looks
Your
like.
Quran is good science.
Electricity, magnetism, direction.
Your Bible is good science.
Hunter, gatherer. You put somebody on medication for 6 years, they'll keep doing it.
Reinvigorated with your spiritual system.
It doesn't have to be salt, sweet,
Nothing
and butter.
more than a magnet and a crystal.
Some of us were children when we got it.
Might want to pick up a book, buddy. So is that a thing now? Wait, that's a thing now? So they don't need to put the microchip in you.
Just kept causing the problem.
The stars create the elements.
The frequency of the light will determine the color.
All right,
you
2
get.
plus 2 is what? 7? All right, you graduate. Don't worry about it.
It would be like you tripping off something.
Is there an ape somewhere right now that's getting his driver's license?
You'll start to notice over time, things somehow start to come back.
Their stuff doesn't hold up to the scrutiny they putting your stuff through. See, it's different when the rabbit's got the gun. Yeah.
Hello, welcome to the Health Nature Commentary Edition. I figured I would put this together because for those of you who were at the event, you know, I had a 2-hour block and there was a lot of information given out. And of course, the information was not exhaustive, but even as good as the information was given out, there's always little tidbits that are on the side that I'm willing to give you guys in the aftermath of the situation. So, this was the intro page at the Health Nature 2 event, and the disclaimer was on the board because the disclaimer must be there. Mind you that Dr. Inky was there. I'm not a doctor. I'm an educator. I've been studying this information for over 10 years now, and I've been able to put a lot of things together and give you guys different points of view of how to look at the information so you can kind of connect the dots and be able to help yourselves to an extent. So, Hosea 4:6 in the Bible says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." Now, the immediate portion after that, which Dr. Inky actually mentions during his specific portion of the lecture, is because you have rejected knowledge, is added to that. So, this is meant to provide education only. I personally do not claim to diagnose, cure, treat, or heal any disease. The human body does these things on its own. As it says here, the human body performs these functions on its own. This info is not meant to be taken as medical advice. Please follow the laws of your local municipality. Please consult your physician before the use of any herbs, chemicals, or partaking in any exercise when ill or under a physician's care. Because in the world we live in, there are laws and guidelines to protect us from rogue practices of medical. Now, I'm educational, so my job is to study the information that's out there and connect it with the observations we make in life and see if I can draw some kind of connection to help you better understand the information. Because after all, the reason I put this information on is not for those who study this astutely, meaning they are students of medicine, they like to study this info, they're professionals. It's for the layman, the regular everyday people who have so much going on, there's no way they would be able to pay attention to this info. So I've come to simplify majority of that information for them. So I'm going to let the lecture begin. You're going to hear a piece of it, and occasionally I'm going to check in and give you guys some commentary on it. So check it out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we ready? Come on. I'm trying to decide whether I'm at a funeral or at an event where we all gonna have some fun. I asked y'all, is y'all ready? Yeah. How many come to grow today? Raise your hands. Very good. I want you to shake somebody's hand next to you and say, I've come to grow today. Do that right now. That's what I'm talking about. It's 3 things that I want you to get out of this event today. 3 things that I want you to do. The first thing I want you to do is admit. What's the word? Admit. I want you to admit that everything is not good about you right now. Even if you've been doing well, you still can grow. Is that right? Yes, all right, so what's the first word? Admit. The second thing I need is your attention. What's the word? Attention. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is what? The second thing we're going to do is give our... All right, I need you to pay very close attention to everything you're going to get. You got people that have traveled. You have people that have been studying that is going to give you some awesome things that's going to help change your life today. I don't know about you, but I'm excited because I'm looking forward to my life growing today. And the last thing that we need you to do is apply. What's the word? What's the first one? Second one? And the last one? All right, very good. Because we have to apply what it is that we learn. Here's the thing that I'm going to admit for you. It's no point in coming if you're not going to do anything with this information. It's too many of us that come and we become celebrities. We're looking for celebrityship. We're looking to just be a part of something. But today it is about you. About who? It's about you. And so repeat after me the first things we're going to do again. We're going to first do what? Second thing we're going to do? And the third thing we're going to do is what? Very good. Now, the person I'm bringing up is special to me. The host, the creator of this event. It's emotional for me because when I was younger and my grandfather was on his last dying breath, he said some words that we'll never forget. As we were struggling, growing up, trying to learn what this thing called life was, he said, it will always be you and your brother against the world. And that meant everything to me. That meant everything because it was times when we didn't believe it was possible. But to stand here seeing my brother throw his event is amazing to me. And so I want y'all to just give a nice round of applause when I bring him up. He's survived, second degree high blood pressure. He's been through pre-diabetes. And he's watched many close relatives to us and people who we love pass away. And he began to ask the question, why are these people dying so young and why are they dying this way? And it caused him to go on a study to learn everything he can about how to keep this body in shape, how to keep us so that we could be healthy, holistic, and helpful all at the same time. And so he began to study under the great Dr. Enki. He became a student and began to glean from him, but also he done his own research. He's put in the hours. So I would like y'all to give a nice shouting round of applause when he comes to the stage to begin and we can get the show beginning. Y'all ready for the show? Yeah. All right, coming up right now to start us up, my brother, Marvin, the animationist, Burwell.
So, during that introduction, you probably heard my brother say, Marvin the animationist Burwell. And some people are going to wonder, why did he say the animationist? Well, even right now and in the past, when I would play PlayStation or Xbox, and because of my drawing and painting background, which was my original talent, I still do drawing and painting. I also do photography, video, and graphic design. The animationist was the name that I used on Instant Messenger when that was popular when I was in college in the early 2000s. And I also used it for my Xbox and PlayStation name when I play video games. I still use it now. So if you're wondering where the name animationist came from, that's where it came from. Keep watching.
Yo, when you pull a mic off the joint, it look like you about to perform for somebody. All right, so we tight on time as far as the way these presentations go. We got a little room to lean and rock the way we want to, but I'm gonna try and get a lot of this information out the way. So if you keep rolling with me, it's a lot to get through, but if you roll with it, you're gonna see things start to stack up and they're gonna become easier for you, all right? All right. All right. Starting out, just to give you guys such a basic understanding of some things, I'm gonna roll through these first few slides pretty fast. But the universe, uni meaning one verse, one sound. A lot of you guys know this already. That's why I said I'm gonna blow through this stuff in the very beginning pretty quick. But universe, one sound, everything starts from a singularity. From a singularity, we get two things. From two things, we get three things, we get four, and so on and so forth. You have to always have a reference point to start off your information before you start digging into other things. Otherwise, you find yourself jumping from here to there. Oh, what's this about pH? What's this about ionized water? What's this about this? What's this about that? You're gonna find yourself jumping around, and every time you hear something new, you're gonna jump to it and you'll never figure anything out, okay? So for that reason, we're gonna go from there, and let me rattle a few slides off. So we got universe, right? Now, why do I have this up here? Because when the universe unfolds for the first time, it unfolds in what they call a spiral graph pattern. I think I got something in here that's kind of like it, but you see this shape over here? This shape over here is like if you're looking at something from like the way you're looking at this book, right? It's not a top-down view, it's a side view. The reason it's a side view is because the moment there is the first word in the universe, the utterance, the sound, anything that gets things started, a vibration, I want you to remember that word. When a vibration happens, it breaks out in this pattern. The oval pattern that you see here is one way. The counter side of that is what we call the hyperboloid or the hourglass figure. So for every one thing, there has to be an opposite so you can recognize what the first thing is. If something is good to you, it's because it feels good. But the moment somebody hits you and it feels bad, you know what bad is. Therefore, you now know what good and bad is. So you have to know the opposites, okay? So let's keep going.
All right, so you're checking out the video, right? And you're hearing me talk about the universe and the spiraling and the unfolding of the universe. Now notice there was a portion in the video where I talked about I had something that I wanted to show, but I didn't want to go digging for it. Well, I have it right here. And what happens is I didn't mention a term called inertia. Inertia is the point at which two things come to a perfect pressure balance. And the only way that it can change is if it's disturbed. So in the case of a thing like this, if you disturb it, it unfolds into this nice spiraling pattern. Notice the connection between what you see on the screen and what I have here in my hand, right? So this is what happens when there's an utterance, a word, a disturbance in the universe. It creates space. Inertia is the point of perfect balance, and the disturbance of that inertia creates the space. And the things governing that space will be things like vibration, which is a type of disturbance. And then you have light, magnetism, electricity, so on and so forth. But it's a nice little thing right here. But explaining the spiraling of things, right? So we flip forward here. We're looking at the things that were in the lecture. Look at this. This is the same pattern of this thing being disturbed. Spiral graph pattern. It's got the hourglass shape in the middle, the top-down spiraling pattern, the coiled copper that they're trying to use to recreate that shape to get the same, or at least to manifest that which they see in real life. And then I also mentioned water, right? When I take this water and I spiral or spin this water, you see a little tornado gather in this water. The reason that's important is because if I can do this fast enough, right? Let me loosen this up a little bit. Let's see if I can get a little spiral. And if I take this out fast enough, and I try and pour it, which I probably didn't do it fast enough. See, it's still doing that gong, 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 gong thing. If you take the water and you spiral it fast enough, and then you pour the water, you'll notice it kind of just falls right out. So give it a try when you're at home. You take the water, or take something that's like maybe bigger than this, and the water's maybe a little low, so you can keep the cap loose, where you don't have to spend the time trying to open it. But if you spin it, you see that little that tornadoing action going on inside of there? That's the action. When you see that happening and the water comes out, it comes out faster, more efficient, with more energy and more consistency in terms of its output. And that's why spin is so important. Things unfold as a spiraling S-curve, not a point moving in one direction, linear. Not a point moving in two directions, but still linear. But a point unfolding in a curling, spiraling pattern to give beautiful designs and stuff like this, right? Or different things in nature. You know, different things in nature giving this spiraling pattern. Inertia is the important point. From the one to singularity, you get two, which is the bi-directional or two-directional thing going on. And check this out. I got this book called Evolutionary Herbalism, right? I want you guys to grab this book if you can for your studies. Let me see if I can get a little focus here, right? See if I can get a little focus. So Evolutionary Herbalism. Now, we talked about the one and the two. What about the three? There's a lot of information out there about the three. They got some in this book here, right? You got Christianity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. You got people, mind, body, and soul. Then you have Hinduism, which is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And then you got constitution, endomorph, mesomorph, ectomorph. Nutrition, fats, carbohydrates, and protein. Molecular, you got the neutron, electron, proton, right? You got the triple. You got the point. You got the plane, which would be like a square. You got a dot, then you got a square. And then you got the cube, which has space. So you're talking about dimensions. The singularity, the duality, which would be the plane. A two-dimensional plane is like a video game where they're walking left to right, but not back and forth, you know, towards and away, just left and right. And then you have the space, or the cube, when we turn it into a three-dimensional object, where now there's space we can move within, right? 3D space we can move within. And then there's time, which comes after that, but time is not really a physicality kind of thing. It's more of a mathematical thing, a way of counting things over a period of time, right? It's not like a physical, touchable manifestation thing. It's just something that goes by so we can count and be able to measure things. So you have time as another dimension if you want to throw that in there. So that's it for the little goodies for this section. So let's continue the lecture. Let's see what else we got coming up.
Let me make a point about this, because I do have 3 things up here. When you put a magnet, because remember, we always say electromagnetism, everything starts with a vibration, with magnetics. When you put a magnet under what they call a ferrocell, which is a circular disc with glass in the middle, and when you put the magnet below it, which this is a top-down view, which is what this looks like top-down, when a magnet has magnetic fields, that's what it looks like, okay? So this is a magnetic field from the top down. When you saw the news talking about we found a black hole, that's this area in the center. That's all it is. Everything was already there. They're not giving us stuff new. They're just re-explaining old things a different way to set your mind the way they want you to see the world, okay? And this here is copper coilings trying to copy this entire thing. When these become sophisticated, you're going to start to see things levitate and fly. That's what this design will allow things to do. If you want to control magnetism, which is what people call things that kind of attract and repel, you control it with electricity. Doctors call it the right-hand rule, which is when you see this with their fingers. Electricity, magnetism, direction. If you drive the electricity a certain way, you start to reduce the magnetic field and things slow down and eventually they go in reverse, okay? Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio. Why is this important? I want everybody to hold their hand up and look at it. The tip of the finger, right? From the tip of the finger to the bottom of the finger is what we call the golden ratio. It's the rate at which everything, remember I showed you the spiral earlier, it's the rate at which things grow in the universe. They don't grow in a straight line. They grow in a twisting S-curve. That's how things unfold in the universe. That's where you get the spiral graph pattern from. That's a pine cone out of a tree, and that's the spiral graph pattern. What is that ratio? From the tip of the finger to the bottom of the finger, to the bottom of the palm, to the point of the elbow, to the whole body, to the bottom of the leg. That's golden ratio. It's the rate at which things unfold in the universe. I only have these things here so you can see it. Twisting tornado, twisting hurricane, twisting pine cone, seashells. You can even spin your water and pour it in a glass and you notice it'll go in the glass faster, okay? You want to have things you can observe even when the science gets, really crazy. Light, and God said, let there be light. Light is the natural agent that stimulates sight and makes things visible. Not all types of light can be seen with the naked eye. Different types of light include infrared, ultraviolet, etc., etc. Now I got some stuff to say about that, but let me start with this first. Duality. Everybody knows what this is over here, right? Yin and yang. Yin and yang, all right. Yin and yang. The one in the middle. Balance of scales. Scales of Mott. I'm going to wind up holding that man back right there. What about this one? Don't give him that one. Where y'all at? This one here. Go ahead, say it louder. Caduceus staff. Give me 2 meanings. Give me another meaning for this. All right. We all know you see this on the back of a medical truck, right? So that's one. The intertwining snakes was used for commerce. That's just trade. It's not that deep. People traded with one another, and having 2 snakes on both sides is the reason they would be able to do it. Okay? So let's move forward from there. So that's your balance of scales. We'll take the middle ground with that one because that's pretty much the way everything's meant to work. I want to use the term pressure mediation. Can y'all say pressure mediation? The reason I'm having you say that is because here forward, everything, including the healing you're going to do, applies to pressure mediation. There is always things pushing and pulling against one another, and when they're out of balance, things move too far in one direction. So they have to find their way back. So keep pressure mediation in mind. The sun. Somebody sent a question when they bought their ticket about haplotypes. So the next slide goes with this. Okay? We got the ice and we got the sun. Now we're getting some things from the first event, right? So in the first event, we explained this whole race relations thing that everybody has a problem with all of a sudden. I'm not even gonna say all of a sudden, it's always been there, right? So we got the sun, so we're gonna say hot, cold. And we're going to keep this simple. When you're in a hot climate, where do you get your food from?
Ground.
The ground, the soil, the trees. All right. And what do we call that food we get from there? Vegetation. All right, so we'll put veggies. What else? Fresh fruit. I hear you.
Grains, nuts, herbs.
Nuts, seeds, etc., right? Herbs. In the cold climate, where does your food come from?
Other beings.
If you want to be cold about it, right? Other beings. Other people, I guess. Cannibalism. If you were living in a cold climate, how would you learn how to eat your food?
Trial and error.
Trial and error. What do you think you would see in your environment to tell you what to do? You're in a cold climate. What do babies naturally do? They like to put everything in their mouth, right? That's how they test things. But it's animals in cold climates too. Everybody has environment around them they can study. In this environment, what do you see? A polar bear probably fishing. You probably see a wolf eating something else, diving, stamping on the ice to pull fish up out the ice. You see wildlife eating other wildlife. It's kind of hard for yourself to kind of point where these two kind of meet in the middle. The reason you need to understand this is because if you're going to talk about why there's such a rift between white and black in the world, is because we're applying these principles. If the food is falling on the ground everywhere, how do you get the food? You do what? Gather. If you're in the cold, you do what? You hunt. Hunter, gatherer. When they come together, you have both. That's why a burger can have lettuce and tomatoes on it. The taco can have lettuce and tomatoes on it. You always get your meat with the veggies. That's the two sides coming together. One side had issues trying to survive. The other one, everything was handed to them. If it fell off the tree, what's the baby gonna do? Ooh, eat it. It gives them no reason to go hunt anything else. They have to be taught that by another animal, by another human being. It could be nature or nurture. It could be either one. But just know that if food is all around you and it already tastes good, you don't start searching for a reason to find other types of food. Over here, you will, because it's about survival. I gotta get to the next meal. So if this person meets this person, then you're gonna have an issue of they think everything's gonna constantly run out. But to make it worse, when I go from this climate to that climate, for some reason, it burns me. This is where albinism came from. You can't stay out there longer than like 20 minutes without frying. So we got to put you in the environment you belong in. So environment, I want y'all to keep environment in your mind because that's very important to recognize what environment you're in. When we look at the hot and cold, and this is in the simplest form, right? This is the book that Dr. Inky is selling on his table right now. It's Eat Right for Your Haplotype. I want you to recognize the hot and cold climate as haplotypes. If you come from a warm haplotype or a cold haplotype, that's going to determine the type of environment your body can survive in. When you're a mixture of the two, which I guess if I get a test, I'm going to find I'm a mixture of the two because of the skin color. That's the quickest way to tell. I'm going to have to find out how my body works. So even though we all have the same body with the same parts in it, it has its own rhythm, universe, right? It has its own rhythm. It has its own shape. So it has its way of communicating with the world, and it puts out its own magnetic field so the world can understand who it is. But I'm going to get more into that later on. So let's keep it going.
So we've gotten to the point where we're talking about race relations, climate, environment. Now, the purpose is to make people understand that depending on where you come from, you tend to be a master of that specific environment. Now, we're far more years later of different mixing and different people coming together with different things. But if we're talking about observable science and the way a thing would be in, let's say, the beginning, not the very beginning, but a form of beginning that we can measure, I want you guys to check out certain books. I got one book here by Sun Tzu called The Art of War. We live in a war culture. And a part of my explanation on the different hot and cold climates, right? Hot and cold climates. we're talking about war culture when we're talking about war climates. How to survive in an area where things don't just grow and are given to you. And you have to observe your environment and understand how it is. What's another book? Mummies, Cannibals, and Vampires. This is basically the plight of a certain people trying to learn how to heal themselves and how to survive in a world where they find themselves perishing because they look at the world as a thing of art and survival. Now, we look at this as a white and black thing, but to keep it simple, people who come from cold climates, who are not familiar with the climate of warm, sunny climates, or, we call this haplotyping. You come from a warm climate, cold climate, that thing like that. But this book shows how there were people who would do things like they would eat things because they believe eating certain things would cause them to have a certain power or a certain assimilation would happen for them in accordance with that which they were eating. So they would eat corpses and, things like that. There would be urine therapy, the urine that you let out after you drink things. People would use that for therapy, and drinking blood and things like that. This book explains some of the culture of a type of people who would seem as though they come from a culture of survivability where they believe things will run out. I mean, it just makes natural sense. We know here, don't get me wrong, can you find like a flower or something growing here? I've heard stories of it. But from what we know, just as us, as natural people, we know in a cold climate, we don't see trees with fruit falling everywhere and things like that. We see things fighting other things for survival. When you come from a culture like that, you're working from meal to meal. You're trying to stay warm. You notice your body parts match the way the environment is. You're not taller, denser, and skinnier. You're shorter and have a thicker stature so that the heat can't reach your core as easily. So when you're in a warm climate, there's plenty of energy being put into you by the sun. So therefore your skin gets darker because it's picking up and being able to handle multiple colors of the electromagnetic spectrum that the sun gives off. And that turns into black and darker colors because it's a unification of those colors. In a colder climate, things happen to protect you in the cold. Your hair doesn't go up and curl. It falls down to protect the neck and certain extremities all the way down. The thicker stature is so you can hold on to the heat and it doesn't get to the bone and the internal extremities as fast. It also allows you to be able to endure for much longer. It's an endurance-based culture, whereas in the warmer climates, it's more built for speed. Now, both can kind of cross the streams depending on how their climate forces them to work out. But we know in a warmer climate, the sun beats down on the skin. You have a skin type that can absorb the rays, which allows you to survive within that culture. It raises mineral levels and nutrition. It allows for faster twitch muscle and things like that. You absorb more radiation, so therefore you're gathering more energy, more frequencies, and you can put back out more energy, more radiation, more frequency. That's why in a room of multiple amounts of healthy African people with dark skin, they put out enough radiation where if a purely white-skinned person were standing in the room, it could radiate them to death. So this is how deep the science can really get on its furthest end if we really push it all the way to the wall. But at the same time, you get someone of a warm climate going into a colder climate, their body's not really built to be able to handle that extreme of a cold temperature. So basically, environment is important to health. Even if the environment can be a bit uncomfortable to you as how you feel, your body thrives best in that country. Look at the studies yourself. Prevalence of disease in African people get higher the further they are from the equator. I think it's practically true for most people. But there's a higher survivability with lighter skin in colder climates versus darker skin in colder climates, and vice versa for darker skinned people in warmer climates. The closer you get to the equator, or places they would call the Tropic of Capricorn, and I believe the other one is the Tropic of Cancer. Pull that up and check that out. You'll see what I'm talking about. But the studies are going to tell you higher incidence of disease the further you get from the equator in the warmer climates. Let's check out more.
Vibration in the electromagnetic spectrum. You just look right here. Vibration waves, depending on where you are on the spectrum, the shorter the length gets, the stronger the vibration, or what we like to call higher vibrations, right? So frequency and vibration, I don't want to move too fast off this one because frequency and vibration is the backbone of everything. So you have, when we say the word, the utterance, the universe, that first sound that was committed, that had a shape and a wave to it. Because when something is sitting still and you disturb it, that's how you get another thing from it. So if we're going to say the ether, God, and all these different things, the person, the supreme being above everything, then there's no way you can be outside of the supreme thing, because it's the alpha, the omega, the first, the last, and everything. So in order for you to fall within that spectrum, that thing or that person or whatever has to negate from self to create other things. How do you do that? The first vibration, which is the utterance. When different vibrations, different sounds start to collide, or if they have separate shapes, they're going to create colors, sound, pictures, all kinds of things. Does that make sense? Yes. All right, let's keep it going.
Let's not brush past the electromagnetic spectrum so fast. This is extremely important since vibration is the front runner of all things. Now you see, as we get closer to the gamma ray side of the spectrum, the wave pattern starts to bunch up real tight because it's a higher frequency. So there's more times it's happening. If I'm going like this is a low frequency, but if I start doing it faster, the amount of times I wave have a higher frequency. And higher frequencies is a way of disturbing things. Imagine me taking you and I grab you by the collar and I shake you very slowly versus I shake you very fast. When I shake you faster, I'm speeding the point at which you become fatigued from it happening and you want me to stop at a certain point. But if I continue to do it, it disturbs you too much. The frequency's too high. It's starting to bother you. When the frequency is really low, it takes longer to bother you. The human body lives just inside the infrared spectrum, which is the reddest spectrum. So when the sun's coming up and you see a more red coloring, that's more of it, has a stronger healing property. It causes our cells in our body to kind of rearrange and come together. Because where there's vibration, there's heat. Where there's heat, there's infrared light coming in there. Of course, unless we really ramp that heat up a whole lot and we start to push into these other spectrums, because keep in mind, I'm going to mention this later on in the lecture, but it talks about visible light. The other areas are still light. This is just the visible portion, the one you can see. Frequency disturbs the medium, because now we're connecting dots, right? We talked about this. There's a disturbance in the inertial plane. I had this out earlier, right? There's a disturbance which causes the unfolding. And when you have a disturbance, that disturbance has a certain frequency. That certain frequency gives us certain shapes, and when those shapes combine in different ways, we get colors and shapes and tangible objects and things like that. All kinds of things, from frequencies of certain amplitudes and wavelengths combining to create different things that we see, touch, taste, feel, so on and so forth. So when you hear people talking about what they can vibe with or vibrate with, your body has certain vibrations that go towards different things. Many vibrations come together. So music makes you feel good because that's something vibrating. And when it vibrates the right way, you feel good. And if it vibrates another way, like usually if they play certain notes, it feels eerie or scary. Certain notes you feel cheery and happy because the vibrations, it's vibing with you. When people talk to you and you get along with them, you're vibing with one another. The more things you vibe with, the more things you get along with. You can coexist with and have harmony with. So that's what it means to be on higher vibrations. But for us, you want to be connected to a multitude of vibrations. You don't want to really go around telling everybody you vibrate higher than them versus vibrate different, because there's multiple types of vibrations. So basically, the more people you get along with, the more different, things, let's say you could survive in all these different vibrational wavelengths. Let's say let's say you're the Hulk, gamma rays, right? If you watch Marvel movies, gamma rays turns the Hulk green. Because that vibration is very high, it's radioactive and toxic to us, but not to the Hulk. Now, that's going into the fantasy land a little bit, but it gives you an idea of what I mean when I say vibration. Can you vibe with a thing? So when you're getting all these different vibrations of the color spectrum from the sun, and your skin is turning darker, which is outside the visible spectrum, is because your body is having the ability to deal with light beyond the visible spectrum. These colors are becoming unified and denser, and your body can handle more vibrations and frequencies of light, meaning it's more unified with the universe. This is the essence of a lot of the arguments that you see when people talk race and its biological abilities when it comes to melanin in the skin. All right? So we're going to go further, more details, more information. Let's keep it going.
Vibration, front runner to everything. Earth, because we got to see what it all comes together as, right? The climate in which we all live with different haplotypes. Necessary for a society to thrive: clean water, clean food, clean air. The thing that a lot of people like to neglect now because they think it's just to go to the beach and hang out kind of thing, which is good, don't get me wrong, but we take for granted how important that actually is. The sun, light. All right, let's start rattling off some problems, right? Water and movement, the water cycle. What's the water cycle? Give me the 4 parts. Precipitation, rain. Condensation, things come together. Evaporation, raises back up again. What's the last one? Most people don't care much for the last one, but it's runoff, which is pretty much what's going down over here. It just runs back into the ocean. So, yeah. So, you need your food to have minerals and be watered. I'm gonna run through these and then I'm gonna explain it. Water, right? Today's water. The forest, right? Today's forest. Minerals, we need minerals in our food, we know that. Today's minerals, you're gonna have to pay for that. Or, what Dr. Inky said before, we like to wear what we should eat. Herbs, pharmacy. When we look at herbs today, a lot of people look at it as let me quickly try it. We know this isn't going to cure you or heal you, but people will be stuck on that for years. There has been many times I've heard the story, you already know, you can vouch many a times. You put somebody on medication for 6 years, they'll keep doing it. They don't like it, they'll keep doing it. You put them on herbs, they're on herbs for 2 weeks and they say it's not working and go back to the medication. The thing that absolutely will not solve the problem, it will just keep you alive a little bit longer. This is the separation between the two. So that's what happened to our connection with the planet. Our connection with the planet has been destroyed. How should our connection actually work, right? I'm gonna get to this one in a second. Let me back up. You have food growing out of the ground, out of the trees. We know the trees need sunlight, water, soil. In order for that to become hydrated, we have the water cycle. So the water cycle provides the rain, washes down over the plants and stuff, plants can grow. All the leftover water runs off back into the oceans. So if there's any minerals coming in with that, that's why the sea tastes the way it does. It's a lot of minerals in that. It's going from ground to ocean, ocean to ground. It evaporates, becomes thick clouds, it rains down again. That cycle continues. If you break that cycle, you demineralize the soil, okay? Now, how do we turn the minerals I showed earlier, right? How do we turn the minerals into what it is in our food? We always say, for quick explanation, that the plants kind of just turn the stuff into it, but it's not that simple. What happens is there's a lot of microbes and different things. Like, you ever notice there's worms in healthy soil? There's worms in healthy soil. There's a lot more than that, but what happens is you eat something, you let something out, or let something out, right? You eat something and you let something out. When you let it out, nowadays we put it in the toilet and mix all of it and it goes here and there, but the way it was supposed to go was it goes in the ground. That's what you see dogs do. Dogs find grass, they sniff it, put something in it, and roll on out. That's what they do. You're seeing how the cycle works, but you've been trained to see the world totally different. Don't get me wrong, we live in a civilized society. Don't nobody want to see you doing that on the curb. So we can understand why. But we know that you have to eat certain things, put something back in the atmosphere so it can turn it over so you can do it again. So things in nature have to be reciprocal. In technology and science, they're trying to find a way to make everything reciprocate in a different way. The reason it doesn't work is because they're copying a perfect system, trying to create something imperfect off of it. So even if they get it perfect, it's going to require so much attention to maintain that if one person falls off, the whole system falls apart. Whereas in nature, things have a way of connecting through the different vibrations and magnetic fields we were talking about earlier. And that's the reason why the earth can continue to turn over. You can't say, how do you live without this and that and the technology and all this stuff nowadays when, like what, before like the 1950s, you didn't have almost half of what you got now. No supermarket, even the oven changed over, right? You don't have a wood ash oven anymore. Because when you cook food on a wood stove and you burn the wood, there's mineral in the wood. So you would carry the wood outside and throw it into the garden so that it would remineralize the soil. You turn it over and wait for the rain, and then your plants and food would grow with nutrients in it. But now we have an electric stove. So whatever you got left over, throw it in the trash. Or compost, right? We compost it because we're trying to cover for something nature was already doing. Keep rocking. Sugar, extremely important. I got a question about this. Every time someone asks a question buying a ticket, the word answer pops up over there. The thing about sugar that was asked was addiction. Almost every single thing that addicts you has sugar in it. Cigarettes, cigars, candy, food. What's our favorite 3 ingredients in food? Salt, sugar, oil. Close. But that is an oil. That is an oil, butter. So, right? That's our favorite 3. We don't get to experience the other flavors of the earth. Let me get this out of the way early. Food is consistency and flavor. Yes, sir. You said, what was the third one? Butter. Yeah, did you get the other 2? Salt, sugar, butter. All right. So, what was I saying? What was I saying about that? Food's consistency. Food is flavor and consistency. Where does flavor come from? All right. When you eat the meat and the chicken and all that, do you eat it without any of that? Okay, where do the spices come from? So we halfway there. We halfway to the healthy eating right there. So we know that the meat ain't the thing we love. The thing about the meat we love is the seasoning and the consistency of the thing we eat. So if you want to start changing your kitchen over, you need to start tasting things that have the consistency you like. Do you like creamy food, chewy food, crunchy food? And find the healthy version of that, and that will start moving you in the correct direction in terms of what your kitchen looks like. All the other dots, you can fill that in as you go. It is an experience to walk and eat different things. It doesn't have to be salt, sweet, and butter. Sit down with your significant other, your kids, try something bitter and laugh about it. Because sometimes the bitter stuff is what you need to heal. And if you don't get your children used to it when they're young, when they really need it, the world seems like it's turning against you. Why do I gotta eat that? Because 60 years you had chicken, steak, fish, and grease. And I'm asking you for 6 months, in some cases, to correct all that, and you won't give me 6 months. So you can see how unreasonable it is. You had enough time for your fun, and when you get sick, we're saying just give a little bit of time to get better. And people say, screw that, and then they start telling you things like, well, I got to take my time, or they be in the gym, I don't want to kill myself, and all they did was 2 reps, and they think they're killing themselves.
All right, so we're back in it again, and you just heard me explaining something about sugar and addiction. Look, nothing works in the body dry. That's something that's mentioned in the lecture, right? Sugar, and this is not like a natural sugar, this is crystallized sugar. I don't care if it's sugar in the raw, brown sugar, rice bran sugar, fructose corn syrup, regular corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, white sugar, powdered sugar. They're all sugars. And they're not coupled with water like fruit. Natural fruit has vitamins, minerals, water, fiber, all those things packaged in that unfolding spiraling shape, perfectly made for us to eat. So when the fruit is hydrated and the veggies are hydrated, we get the proper water, minerals, and everything combined together. Processed sugar is just crystallized sugar. And in order to uncrystallize it, it has to take in water. So when you put the sugar in your body and you have a habit of not drinking water, you're drying your body out. And the fact that it's concentrated, anything you concentrate becomes stronger and it can become addicting. Sugar is one such a thing. Salt is another such a thing. These things will dry you out. Where there's no water, things become rigid and they begin to tear easier. Now imagine the tissues in your body becoming like this paper towel, and it makes it easy for it to just tear. And that's what's going on. Now, we're talking about healthier foods also during this section, and we're talking about different things you can try. So let's look at a few things that you can start getting your kitchen in order, right? We got whole rolled oats. No adding any sugar. I just dump some blueberries in it. We already make these with water. So we hydrate them up. We use a warm water, keep our body pretty warm inside. We don't really want to be cold inside or too hot inside. warm, so we add some water to it. We wait for it to absorb the water, to hydrate the food, and then we can eat the food. Now we got the water with the minerals, right? We got our baobab powder, which is really good for getting your vitamin C, right? So we got baobab powder, which is pretty high in vitamin C. We know it for that. So this is really good to have around. You could dump that in your water. Pretty citrusy in flavor. You got to have it of getting too much salt. Sodium comes easy in a lot of our foods, but what doesn't come easy is iodine. And organic kelp, sea vegetables like dulse, D-U-L-S-E. I believe that's how you spell it. It could be D-U-L-C-E, but I believe it's dulse, D-U-L-S-E, I believe is the spelling of it. But kelp, like if we just look at the back of this, iodine, 970% of the daily amount with 1 teaspoon. Magnesium, 6%, so kelp granules. So instead of using salt, something with a lot of sodium in it, which sodium is very easy for your body to get. A lot of things have sodium in it, and the daily recommended amount is not very high. So a lot of people think they need to get a lot of salt, they need to shake extra salt. No, you're overboard quick. And again, salt is also, in that type of form, a drying agent along with the sugar. So keep that part in mind. We got products, Mom Atomics. This is one of Dr. Inky's products that he had out there on his actual table. Heavy hydrogen mineralized supplement. This goes inside of water. If you want to know what it tastes like, pickles. Got kind of a pickles kind of taste. But you throw it in the water, dilutes it a whole lot. Or you can just take the dropper, a couple drops under your tongue. They call it sublingual. Go right into the bloodstream, get some nutrition that way. But you still need water. Drink water to go with these things, okay? And this is something I can explain later when we get into the skin and hair section. Called Savation. It's a skin cream. So, yeah, those are a few things. Addiction, things that are concentrated. The poppy seed gives you one of everybody's favorite drugs out there, right? That's a concentrated thing. And these concentrated things, if there's something within the thing being concentrated that people like it and you concentrate it, it elevates the want for your body to have more of it. So when it becomes addicting, the weird thing is what made you love sugar the first time, it usually requires more the next time you have it to get the same effect. That's the thing about addicting things and things that are considered a drug. A drug is defined as anything taken out of its natural state. The moment you extract something from something else, you have a drug. So keep that part in mind. Sugar is technically a drug. Very addicting. The sweetness people love. Hey, look, my family, big on the sugar. I'm big on the sugar. But I hydrate very well. And eventually I kind of learned and studied this stuff so much and changed my diet so much. I'm not a big fan of highly sweet things anymore. So it's not like it used to be. This knowledge really kicked in and helped me out a lot. So let's keep going.
Meat versus flesh, one of the favorite biblical quotes, right? And God said, behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for... Somebody got you with the definition of meat. There go your processed meat right there. Everybody knows when you kill an animal within a matter of minutes, that's what you got. So for the fact, if you ain't got a butcher right in front of you hacking that thing up, killed right fresh off the ground, how did it turn into that? You got to ask the question. If they treating it with carbon monoxide to give it that red color, and they hitting it with ammonia and bleach and all that, and you like, ooh, it look good, it tastes good, and then your body is like, it's not good. GMO. All right. For those who weren't here for the first event, how do you know? These things always change, okay? But how do you know when you're buying produce what's the good stuff? 5-digit code with an 8 means GMO. It starts with an 8. That's why they say with an 8. Conventional. I believe you said cheapest option, right? Conventional would be the cheapest option they could find. 4 digits, 4-digit code, starting with a 4. Organic starts with a 9 and it is 5 digits. So if you're looking for the organic food, organic, right? We got to deal with that definition eventually. But if you're looking for organic food, which in many cases is cool, it's got to have 5 numbers and start with the number 9. Okay? And look for the symbols. to kind of help you narrow down walking through the market so you're not running all over the place trying to find it. I know it's a lot of reading in the market now. Back in the day, you should just pick it up and roll. Now you like, you gotta keep on rolling.
All right, so check it out, guys. So I got this screen up about the different codes that come on the produce, right? And these are the main three. You got the 5-digit code with the 8, which is GMO, genetically edited or genetically modified. You got the 5-digit code with the 9, which is the organic. And then you got the 4-digit code with the 4, which means it's conventional. Now, conventional has pesticides on it. Having pesticides is different than something that's genetically edited or GMO. See, that's when the genetic code has been messed with. It's not coming out of nature perfectly the way it should. Somebody edited it to come out a certain way. Now, there are 2 other codes. There's also a code beginning with a 3, which is a pasteurized version. So if you see a code beginning with a 3, it's an iodized, pasteurized version of the food. And then there's codes beginning with a 6, which just means that the food was pre-cut. So if you see those little trays with the fruit and stuff, it means pre-cut. So that's pretty much what that means. I just wanted to give you guys those 2 extra ones that are not showing on here and a little more understanding about the conventional with the 4, which means that the pesticides are being used on the conventional food. So it's genetically modified and conventional with the pesticides on it. All right?
All right, Monsanto, everybody's favorite biotechnology company. I'll just read some of this off and keep moving. It's a publicly traded American multinational agrochemical and agrobiotechnical corporation. Wasn't that a lot? It is headquartered in Creve Coeur, Greater St. Louis, Missouri. Monsanto is the leading producer of genetically engineered seed and Roundup, a glyphosate-based herbicide. Ask yourself, did the creator get it right? Is this manipulation of natural food necessary? Or is it for money and power over your natural resources so you can be controlled consumers? We're there now. How many people drink straight out the sink? No hands. Everybody getting, like even me right now, right? I got buy water. We used to get finished running ball and just run in the kitchen and right under the sink. So, huge. I didn't follow up with this lately, but this was huge. And it's easy to remember because the guy's name is Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, right? He won the case against Monsanto because he proved that the herbicide Roundup causes cancer. And in the court case, I read the court case documents. They found out they were hiding the studies that proved that it was causing cancer. So when y'all walking around with that green Roundup body spraying your lawn, and you see some people doing silly stuff, they spraying it and walking right behind it. So they sniffing it while they spraying it, so it's even worse. He was questioned and they checked to see if he was using it as advertised, and he was. It still gave him cancer, and he won the case against them and won $289 million. And that was huge. And there was a guy, Freddie, we were talking about this the other week, there was a guy arguing with me online like, I'm sorry, there's no way this company could be around for 45 years. This is that right wing, left wing. He turned it into that kind of conversation, right? There's a Democrat state. Can't just be true, right? The man is sick. Something natural didn't make him sick. Something not natural made him sick. Something chemical. Vaccine or no vaccine? That's what I wrote. There is much to be said about vaccines. The manufacturers tell us they are safe and effective, and that adverse effects are extremely rare. However, with the historical evidence of lawsuits, testimonials, lack of requested studies from doctors around the world, and the rise of autoimmune diseases and mental disorders in children, it is hard to allow such a chemical invasion into our bodies. Some of us were children when we got it. This is how the generations pass it on, and you can't do nothing about it. You grow up and realize, I think there's like 70-something shots you get now before you turn 18, and you already got many of them. And, I'm up here to complain about it, but I was lucky enough to not come out with a problem from it. Because the question is, has it been safe for some people? Has it caused problems? In a lot of cases, I don't know. It's not something I can visibly see, but there's some doctors that's like, yeah, did you ever notice when your baby talks, the lip leans slightly to the right and it didn't do that before? Or all of a sudden an eye starts to carry over to this side? Or they stand in the corner and get real quiet when you talk to them when they used to be really lively. There's doctors that study all that and say, yo, right after the vaccine, this stuff started happening. I pulled this up just recently. I went to the HRSA website, Health Resources and Services Administration. I'm not gonna read all this to you, but I was just noticing the wording about vaccines. Most are very rare. Some health problems are not cause. So you got all this, I'm not sure, and then not. The moment it's attached to vaccines, it didn't happen because of the vaccine. But everything else, it possibly will. But check it out. They're not caused by vaccines. Now, you can keep reading it. You'll be able to kind of, if you're the type of person who like to look at both sides, I suggest you do that. And you're going to find out the same thing. In very rare cases, a vaccine can cause a serious problem. But I just got finished reading not. This is the kind of stuff we see, and it looks like I put something here. I circled it on purpose. The National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program is a no-fault alternative to the traditional legal system for resolving vaccine injury petitions. It means that whether they're found guilty or not, they're not blamed for it. There's a totally separate court than the courts we go to litigate for this, and there's no jury there. So there's nobody there biased to be like, I hate vaccines, so you know what? Jury for the person. You know, they're going to bang the gavel and help you out. Nah, don't work like that. The Cutter incident, for people who don't know, I'll give you a short and skinny of it, but what happened was a long time ago, there was a group of people, I believe it was India. I might be wrong about the location, but they were getting DPT and a polio vaccine, and it just kept causing the problem to people. And people were dying and getting severely injured from it. And they were suing the vaccine company so much that all the main vaccine companies went out of business except one, and they said, we're gonna go out of business too if the government don't help us. And the government stepped in and created this, which is a standard payment program if they find that your problem may have been caused by a vaccine. So you gotta fight for that. So now you gotta have money where you don't have it to fight for something that you think caused the problem that they're saying it didn't. And because they got all the experts and stuff, it's easy for them to just say, it's confounded, they don't know what they're talking about, we got all the studies, we've confirmed, we've had peer-reviewed studies done to prove, we had our friends and people who are not friends but are in the same industry as me confirm that this is okay.
All right, so this is the portion about the vaccines, and I just wanted to clear up one thing. So when we're talking about the Cutter incident concerning the vaccines, this took place in West and Midwest America, where the DPT and the polio vaccine were given out, and a bunch of people wound up suing the vaccine manufacturers to the point where they were all going to go out of business, so they asked the government to step in, and that was where a new court system was created to litigate vaccine injury related issues. But they called it a no-fault program, which is pretty unfair. Something's a little fishy there when you see something being protected so much. From my study, I can understand that maybe it was one of the most important things they ever found in terms of scientific creation, vaccines. But then at the same time, if I were there, I would be the one to ask, why is it so important? No, don't tell me it's because it's protecting people from the viruses and the diseases, because when I look at the history of it, things like polio, these viruses are things kind of like when people get them, not only when they survive them, which majority of the people do, if you look at the big picture, just like we do for vaccines, majority of the people survive it. The question in science should be to find out who survived, all those people who survived, and why did they survive versus the ones who didn't. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to hurt the strong so that you can save the weak. That's counterproductive. That's not what we want to do. And that's what it seems like. But to me, doing the study, it seems like they're really proud of the whole vaccine thing. It comes across more as biological weapons tampering. Like you found a way to mess with the defense of the human body and control it to your favor. So I can inject you with something may or may not happen, a change in you may or may not happen, and we're kind of looking for when something goes right or goes wrong so we can study that so that we can have better control over biological systems and situations. That's what it seems like is so important. So if that's the case, I can see why it's a very important science, and you want to keep your centers open to keep producing them so you can continue down that road of science and controlling human biology. That's all I can really get out of it. I mean, if I'm wrong, feel free to put up the information. I'll check it out, see what's going on. But, saying that the vaccines are the biggest saver of lives, maybe. I leave little room for everything, but seems like a whole lot of changes in the negative direction of human biology has been happening ever since these vaccines came along. So it's my point of view. I guess the future will tell, and what the people do will tell too.
Oh, how about this one? I love this when I first learned about this. This was years ago. Most of y'all food y'all eating is what? Generally recognized as safe. Eat these scissors right here because it's generally recognized as safe. It won't kill me now. It might kill me later. It might kill me if I eat an unreasonable amount, which for some people is like 5 donuts, which you're easily going to be able to eat. So generally recognized as safe, right? It's not safe. They could have just said, yo, safe food. No, generally recognized as safe. Generally, we got to make sure it's general. Antibiotic resistance. Back when they first came out with you guys probably know about this, but back when they first came out with penicillin, the person who came out with it said, yo, y'all need to chill with using that on people because eventually you're gonna build up a bacterial resistance from it. Meaning we're gonna start giving people penicillin and it ain't gonna be working no more. Because living biology systems learn from one another. Horizontal gene transfer, Dr. Inky, thank you. Horizontal gene transfer is a big deal. Y'all ever have like shine a light? Like probably if I look like at the edge of this projector, you can see little floaty things in the air when you have lights on. Just little things like that. When you breathe them in, when they touch your skin, it's things your body picks up that you don't, that are automatic. And because of that, the body can say, oh, that's in the environment. So let's start to shift and change our insides to be able to deal with that. Dr. Sebi was like really good with that. The story that I heard was when he would travel to new places, he would find like a pristine river system. And he would take a little bit of the dirt and mix it and make a mud and put a little bit in his mouth and eat it and wait a little while so that his gut biome could adjust to that location. Remember earlier I was talking about the hot and cold climates? He was adapting himself to whatever climate he was in so he could digest the food. And once he puts the food in his body, it allows his body to start to kind of take a time and turn over to be able to digest that food from that location. I kind of, in a way, got some experience with that because when I went to Punta Cana for the first time, my wife was there. I didn't go to the bathroom for the first 2 days, and most of the food I ate had pineapple in it. And I was like, yo, something's wrong. Like, I don't know why I'm not going to the bathroom. I learned about this way after. But of course, I went into chill mode. I went down to 2 meals a day, then to 1 meal a day. I kept trying to try stuff just because I was there. Like, man, I'm on vacation. Colon just packed. Oh, check it out. Some more deceiving information for y'all. This is old school too, but this when the tobacco company, when the truth, you know how we like out here getting the truth, right? When they was hitting the tobacco company with the truth, where's the joint they put? When the truth was coming out, they put out information where it says, doubt is our product since it is the best means of competing with the body of fact that exists in the mind of the general public. It is also a means of establishing a controversy, which means as smart as we may be getting, if we're only getting smart enough to say my way is right, your way is wrong, they are winning because you're saying eat this way, that person says eat that way, and y'all start arguing and nobody knows who the truth is. You say I'm gonna go my way, they say I'm gonna go that way, and y'all continue doing what y'all doing, and they start propping up industries off of you arguing about things and not solving the actual problem. Sometimes it's better to just step away from both and say what's a good middle ground, what's the real deal, what should we actually be doing? So people have to do more coming together instead of just trying to prove how much smarter they are than another person, because I can name almost one thing. From people I know in the crowd, I can name at least 1 or 2 things I learned from each one. So I pick up a lot of information from different people. This is huge, this is political, right? Unless we put medical freedom into the Constitution, the time will come when medicine will organize into an undercover dictatorship to restrict the art of healing to one class of men and deny equal privileges to others. The Constitution of the Republic should make a special privilege for medical freedoms as well as religious freedoms. And that is a founding father, Benjamin Rush, saying that years ago. And you're seeing it come to fruition right in front of your eyes. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not. Neither decline from the words of my mouth, forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all thy getting, get understanding, because you can't use information without understanding it. Understanding and wisdom is the ability to apply what you have learned. My brother said earlier, we are going to apply. Oh, we're about to get in it now. All right, let's get busy.